So the first one is watch your words. Watch your words. And verses 25 and 29. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. And then in verse 29 he says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. So he talks about two different things, but they're related because they are essentially our words. The first thing he says is put off lying. So that's what we're to put off. Those are our street clothes. We put off the lying so that we can put on the armor of speaking the truth. Now, this seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? I mean, even the worst of people know that they shouldn't tell lies. So why is Paul having to tell this church that has a very good reputation for standing on the truth? Why is he having to tell them, stop telling lies to each other? We might think that that's one of the first things you learn as a Christian, is to not tell lies. Well, there are many ways that we can lie to each other, aren't there? You may have come in this morning and somebody said, how you doing? I'm fine. But actually, you're really not. Guess what? You just not only told a lie, you took away somebody's opportunity to minister to you. I wonder how many times we say, yeah, I'm fine, good. How was your week? Yeah, it was good. When actually it really wasn't. It was actually really a bad week. Truth is, we just told a lie. We might have come in and said, how you doing? Oh, tell you what, this was a rough week. Man alive, it was tough. And actually, it was just fine. You were just after a bit of attention. We still told a lie, didn't we? When somebody says, how was your week? Be honest and tell them. We can't minister to each other if we're constantly telling lies to each other. And after all, God put us here together as a body so that we could minister. And we may be the very one, by committing this sin, that is preventing that ministry from happening. How many times do we say to somebody, I'm praying for you, and we're not? Maybe you've been convicted of that in your past, and so you know what? If I tell somebody I'm praying for them, I make sure right there and I say a little prayer. So at least I am saying that I prayed for them. Well, you're giving the impression that you're doing a lot more than saying a little prayer for them. So let's be honest. Don't tell people you're praying for them if you never even give it another thought. Paul says, put away falsehood. Put it away. Take off those street clothes of telling lies to each other. Why would Paul need feel the need to point this out? I mean, surely that's one of the foundational parts of a Christian's relationship to other Christians, isn't it? That we don't tell lies? But I'm fairly certain that we do. And we might give the impression, I'm doing really good. Yeah. I'm reading my Bible, and I'm praying, and things are going really well. But they're really not. I wonder how we've been untruthful with our brothers and sisters in Christ. I wonder how we've been deceitful. We need to put off the lies and deceit. We need to put on being truthful and honest with each other. Why? What does it say? Because we are members one of another. Your body knows when you're trying to make it believe something that isn't true. What's the statement? Mutton dressed as lamb? There comes a point when you can't shop in the young people section anymore. I used to enjoy going, what was it, Top Man? Before they closed down. My boys introduced me to that when we first moved to this country. And on the mannequins, those clothes look really nice. They seem to fit so well. Turns out mannequins have legs like about that big around. And they have teeny tiny little chests. And I quickly learned I can't shop at Top Man. I'm too old for that. I'm starting to become too old for just about anywhere other than maybe M&S. You know, our body knows when we're trying to tell lies. Our body knows that when we're trying to make it do things that it's just not capable of anymore. It just doesn't have the energy and the strength, the flexibility to do things anymore. I can still sit on the floor. Getting up is a lot harder than it used to be. And it aches afterwards. If I sit cross-legged for very long, or if I hold my arm above my head, parts of my body go to sleep. And it's like it's not even there anymore. And you got to wake it up. Our body knows when we're telling lies. And Paul is saying we are a body. We cannot function properly the way God intended for us to do if we're telling lies to each other. Admit the truth. Be who God made you to be, because that's why he brought you into this body. He gave you your strengths and your weaknesses to fit perfectly with our strengths and weaknesses. When we lie to each other about what those are, we're not helping anyone. And then he says in verse 29, and let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but put on edifying language. In other words, that which is good for building up. The Greek word for corrupting talk or corrupting there literally means something rotten. Something rotten. There's something just really awful about rotting flesh, isn't there? I mean, it's got to be one of the worst smells that there is. And God did that on purpose because he wanted us to avoid it at all costs. Stay away from that. That's gross. That is unhealthy. That's bad for you. And these people that eat dried fish, that is rotten fish. You should avoid that. Stay away from that. It's sitting there in the sun decomposing. That is good for nothing but garbage. Gene. Well, maybe you can eat it, but when it comes to our words, should not be a reflection of our words. It's easy to assume that what Paul is talking about here is swear words, and that's not wrong, but it's much more than that. Remember, Paul is saying that our walk should be a reflection of our calling. So the practical must be a reflection of our heart, mind, and spirit, or else it is simply another law that shows. So we could have a list of words that we never say. Never say these words, these words, these words, because they're corrupting talk, and I don't want them to come out of my mouth. The problem is, if our heart is still thinking those things, then we haven't changed anything. If the word that comes out instead of this list of words, but it's another word, but it's still a reflection of the problem, then we haven't fixed the problem at all. We've just become Pharisaical and said, I'll never say these words, but these words are okay when I'm angry. I'll never call my brother or sister these words, but I'll say these ones. We've just become like the Pharisees. We're whitewashed sepulchres. We have to fix the heart problem. There's a lot more to what Paul is saying than just don't use foul language. And believe me, I'm not saying, so therefore it's okay to say swear words. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, let's think this through and see what Paul is actually saying. We know that he's saying more than that because What are we to put on? So what we're putting off is the corrupting language. What we're putting on is things that is good for building up. Things that are right for the right occasion. Things that give grace to those who hear it. So the opposite of that is what Paul is telling us to put off. We are to use language that edifies. Edify means to build up. So what are to put off is things that tear each other down. Edify means to strengthen. So what we're to put off is words that weaken each other. Paul calls those types of things rotten, corrupting. Yes, it includes specific words, swear words or whatever. But there's a lot more to it than that. Anything negative that doesn't need to be said, we should put that off. We shouldn't let those sort of words come out of our mouth. Forcing others to think that they aren't as mature or spiritual as spiritual as us because they don't hold the same convictions as I do. We constantly bring up the fact that this is my standard, that's your standard. So my standard is better than your standard, so I'm a better Christian than you are. We're not edifying and building up, we're tearing down. We might think, oh, I'm speaking the truth in love. Probably not. Listen in your mind, and I say this to some of you kids as well, because I know it's hard at times. Listen in your mind to the words that are about to come out of your mouth before they come out of your mouth. Don't let the first time you hear these words be when they are coming out of your mouth. Think it through first before it comes out. And ask yourself, if somebody said those words to you, how would you feel? Would you feel encouraged, built up, strengthened in the Lord? Would you feel as though the grace of God was coming upon you? If not, keep them where they belong, inside. Sort them out and figure out a better way to do that.